Hey guys, it's West here, back with another episode of the 2018 Beginner's Guide series, where I tell you guys what I would do if I were to progress through this game, trying to progress as quickly as possible, minimalistically of course, trying to only utilize farmable and fusible units so that you guys can follow along. We're back, episode 6, wow. It feels like a lot of time has passed, and there has been. It's been about a month, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It's been a little while since the last video, so there has been a lot of progress that has been made. One of the biggest things being the Sigmarus fusion that I accomplished. It took a long time, and I got really stressed at one point, and I was struggling to get the wind Amazon. And like the person I am, I totally completely forgot that you could purchase the wind Amazon in the shop, the Guild Wars shop. So just something to keep in mind if you are in a guild. If you're not in a guild yet, I'd recommend getting in one. If you are in a guild, then if you're struggling to find a piece for a fusion, some awkward fusion like a Water Grim Reaper or a Wind Amazon, this is the place that you could find it, and it could really help you out. Also, Megan's skill ups are farmable here as well. That's kind of relevant too. Although, I mean, for the price of Ifrit pieces, I don't know if I would recommend purchasing those skill ups because she isn't at 3. So unless you're really desperate to get the fusion done, or you're really missing that crucial piece, then I don't know. But anyways, we got the Sigmarus fusion done. We have him runed up on some runes that I'm really happy with. Almost 100% crit rate, plus 79 speed, so he's really fast. He also has a lot of attack and a lot of crit damage. So for this account currently, he is by far the best rune monster that we have. So the runes that I have on him are actually Swift Energy, believe it or not. We managed to get all that crit rate through the Swift and Energy runes that I have. And I was really happy about that because there's a lot of times in this series I want to point out really big important things. And I think this is one of those moments where I can talk about the importance of utilizing runes that have good quality substats, in addition, of course, to their main stat and set. But you can see, typically you would go with more of a Fatal Blade, because that's usually, I feel like, the most logical place your mind would instantly go is to put your unit on Fatal to try to get as much attack as you can. But I was able to accomplish this on Swift Energy just because the runes that I had were high enough quality. You can see all these runes: speed, crit rate, crit damage, accuracy, crit rate, crit damage, speed, and an attack percentage rune. Speed, crit rate, crit damage. It's got defense, but we can't get attack here, so that's fine. Speed, defense, attack. It's got built-in crit rate on this crit damage rune. So every single one of these runes has just really amazing substats. And even though it's not a Fatal Blade set or what you would typically see on a damage dealer, it provides us with really good stats. Of course, the attack can get higher. Of course, we grinds and enchants and all that. But for where this account is at, I'm really happy with this. And actually, the little bit of accuracy on Sigmarus helps too. The more the merrier, because we can hit freezes with every one of these skills. A freeze with the 3rd skill, freeze with the 2nd skill, and then a stun with the 1st skill. So we have been devil mining him as well, if anybody is curious. Yes, he is farmable, and you could hypothetically fuse enough Sigmaruses to max skill Sigmarus, but I mean that's crazy unless you're really far, or you're far enough in the game where you have the fusion monsters for Sigmarus accumulated from summoning sessions. So I'm max skilling Sigmarus all the way. I'm going to try to get that stun utilized because we're going to be using Sigmarus everywhere, because Sig is going to be our main damage dealer, because those base stats on Sigmarus are amazing for an attacker, just really high attack. And then the tank substats aren't terrible, like the HP and defense aren't completely terrible. The speed is a little bit rough, but I mean, even on this Swift set where we don't really get to fully utilize the Swift set because the low base speed, or we're not getting as big of an advantage out of the low base speed, the substats on these runes are amazing. We are an attack, crit damage, attack. We don't have a speed slot too, and we are plus 79 speed, so I'm super happy with that. So for those of you who are curious about what the team looks like now that we have Sigmarus fused, we've actually taken out our attack bar reducer, and we've taken out our wind Minotaurus. I was really skeptical about this at first. I was like, oh, this kind of sucks. We got rid of one of our 6 stars to put in Sigmarus, but honestly, I kind of like this team a lot. We've got, 3 forms of defense break. We have Darien, we have Belladine, and we have the Magic Knight. We actually have some AoE CC potentially with Sigmarus, if Sigmarus manages to not AoE clear the waves, but most of the time Sig does just great damage. The reason I run Darien instead of a cleanser is because I talk about this as often as I can. The passive based units in this game are just like way more consistent. Like you can expect a lot more out of a passive based unit than a unit that you have to have reliably using a skill, because they have no choice but to use that skill if they're a passive based unit. So although the effect of a passive based unit might on paper be weaker than someone with an active ability, then you might think, okay, well, I'm going to choose the one that's stronger, but the passive based unit can consistently do whatever they need to do. So for example, Veramos can consistently cleanse. Even though it's only one debuff, it's consistent. He's every single turn going to cleanse one debuff. Same thing goes with Darien versus a cleanser. You have to rely on that cleanser to have the cleanse up when you need it, to use the cleanse ability, and hope it's at the right time. I hope it does enough. With Darien, it's just solid damage reduction. So even with defense break on my team, I'm not going to die. You could see I didn't take huge damage with the defense buff on my team and the strip. The big thing is the strip of the attack buff from Bella. If Bella doesn't land the strip, then we might be in trouble, but we're usually pretty good, and Sigmarus usually doesn't take more than one revenge hit, and usually if Sig does take a revenge hit, it's with a defense buff up. But you could see the damage that we do to the giant is just ridiculous. Sigmarus's max HP base damage is really solid, so we got a 153 time here, which is great. We're speeding up our runs, slowly making them faster. Super consistent team too, because like I said, the damage mitigation is just solid. It's built right into Darien's kit. We should never have a problem getting the attack and defense buff up with Shannon. We have plenty of damage between the max HP and extra AoE of Sigmarus and the AoE and attack bar reduction of Lapis. I mean, we have a bunch of utility in this team, and I can't stress enough the importance to extra defense breaks. Like, you don't always need to do this, but especially when you're starting off and you can't fully trust the reliability of your units on your team, or I just want certain redundancies, certain abilities. I want as many of them as possible because they're really important. Like, for example, defense break is so important because that is where our damage is coming from. Us reducing their defense is going to greatly increase our damage. It'll actually increase your damage by itself more than attack buff will increase the damage by itself, because with the way the damage formula works, reducing the defense just drastically increases your damage, whereas the attack buff is nice. It's not as huge, because with defense buff you're reducing their defense by just so much that your damage output just skyrockets. So it's so important to have that, especially since we're relying on the max HP damage with the second and third skill of Sigmarus. I mean, it's just huge. Also with Darien here, we have a second attack break. So we have an attack break with Sigmarus, which is another reason why having that little bit of accuracy in the substats is really nice too. Even though Sigmarus is mainly here for the damage, that attack break can be really crucial, because if we do happen to have a defense break on us and no defense buff, and maybe the giant has an attack buff on him, our attack break can basically essentially neutralize that attack buff, so we can reduce the damage even more. But you could see right there, the Sigmarus is going to die sometimes. It's not super scary because we can still clean this up with our team. The only problem we're having with this team is that Lapis can multi-hit so many times that she kills herself. So really probably the next step in this team is going to be finding a way to remove Lapis for a better single hitting damage option. You can see that's the biggest problem here, is Lapis killed herself and her multi-hits cause your team to get revenged more often. So I don't feel like she provides enough damage right now to be worth it, but this is the main cause of our team's failures. So she kind of set Sigmarus up to die, if you see here. So I want to talk about this with the team. So all of her skills are multi-hits, so except for her third skill, of course. But her first skill, I mean, she's going to hit 3 times. Her second skill, probably going to hit around 2 times. So she can really set up Sigmarus for taking hits. That's the reason why I use the HP lead from Sig over the attack lead from Lapis, because in all honesty, a lot of the times your team's going to get hit. Your team's going to get hit hard because the giant hits pretty hard, especially earlier on in the game when you don't have your towers maxed, when your damage just isn't insane, so you can't, speed clear. You speed clear the giant's wave and all that kind of stuff. So our runes aren't in a place where we can kill the giant fast enough, so we need to find ways to reduce the damage that we're taking. And generally, in general, Water Magic Knight's damage isn't amazing compared to what you have in the very beginning of the game. She's so amazing, but she's one of those units where, in terms of a damage dealer, falls off very quickly through your progression. Now I still have her because she does reduce the enemy's attack bar. She does some okay AoE damage, so she's really she helps with clearing the waves. Her partnered with Sigmarus will always clear a wave if there's an attack buff. So I do have her there for that, and the extra defense break is nice. But the main reason why she's here versus any other unit is because she has AoEs, and we don't really have any other amazing AoE options right now. But in this episode, I did want to talk about something kind of big that I've been waiting to talk about for a while because I wasn't sure how I wanted to address it. So when it comes to things that are considered farmable, there's I feel like there's a lot of different points of view that I've seen in the Summoners War community. For example, you could consider Theomars and Tessarian and Akamamir the Ifrits that you can get from the Guild Shop. Those can be considered farmable. You can consider so many things. Some people consider Hall of Heroes farmable, and that's a question I had for you guys. What do you guys think is okay to be farmable? The reason I asked this question is because there is a huge one. If you are in a guild now and your guild has unlocked the Guild Magic Shop, which you inherently get just for being in a guild, and I'll go over to it and talk about it so I don't confuse anybody. This Guild Magic Shop, you can find pieces of 4 stars in it. Some of those are the Barbarian Kings. You could find all 3 of the Barbarian Kings in there. You can find Hua, the Fire Rakshasa, as well as I think either the Wind or Water one as well, maybe all 3. But there's a lot of really good units that you can now find in this shop. Now, that is basically farmable because if you just check this every time it resets, you will see those pieces eventually. It's kind of like in the same way that every 3-star in the game is technically farmable because there is an infinite supply of unknown scrolls as long as you farm. You're going to end up with whatever, 1,000 unknown scrolls unless you're summoning them trying to get a Wind Amazon. And you will eventually accumulate all the 3 stars in the game, or at least one of each. And you can see I have most of the 3 stars I have encountered at some point, and that's just through mystical scrolls that I get along the way, through unknown scrolls. So you're bound to see them, and I feel like in the same way you are eventually bound to see those Nat 4s. And I asked that question because I'm curious about your input. I want to see the viewer input on this one. So if you guys do have any sort of ideas, any sort of input on that, I would very much appreciate to see that in the comment section below because I'm curious about what you guys consider to be farmable. And if that is the case, then there are some monsters we're going to be going over. We're going to be talking about some of these anyways. So the first one I want to talk about is Hua. She's now farmable essentially. Even if I don't use her in this series, and you guys choose say, oh, well, it's kind of farmable, but you still can't reliably say that everybody's going to get it. I totally feel you guys on that one. But I mean, we could check out her skills and just talk about her a little bit, because if you guys are following this along and you want to progress faster, I highly recommend you utilize any Nat 4s or Nat 5s that you summon that are non-farmable, non-fusable, because there's a lot of really, really good Nat 4s and a lot of really, really good Nat 5s that could help with progression. So Hua's definitely one of them. She has passive attack bar reduction. You see, we're kind of following along with that theme where passives are really, really good in your PvE content where you're farming. She's actually really good in Giants, and you may wonder why. It's a fire unit. Why would you bring it to a water dungeon? That's weird. She has this passive attack bar reduction that even on a water unit, even with the chance of glancing, it's usually going to hit. In addition to that, she's a speed-based damage dealer. Her second skill and her first skill deals increased damage based on her attack speed, so the faster she is, the more damage she's going to do. She has an attack speed slow, she has a continuous damage effect, and every hit she will theoretically reduce the attack bar of the enemy by 25%, and she could attack again with a 20% chance, which means whatever ability she used, she's going to do it again with a 25% chance, I believe. And that extra, or 20% chance, and that extra 20% chance, if she attacks again, she will reduce their attack bar by 25%, theoretically, again, unless it gets resisted, of course. So, you know, she has a lot of stat requirements. You know, she wants speed, crit rate, crit damage, attack, accuracy, HP. I mean, she wants a lot of stats, but she's a really, really good unit. She's a crit rate lead, too. She's pretty good for Guild Wars. She's really good for Giant Speed 10 as an attack bar reducer, kind of like as an extra unit. She also, she destroys crystals because she's a fire unit, she's not going to target those water golems. And since the crystals are element neutral, technically they're element neutral, even though they're, blue crystals, they don't have an element. So because they're not water, she will be targeting them because, of course, she's elementally weak against water. So she's nice for taking out the crystals, which can give your team some survivability because those crystals can wipe your team if you're not careful and you're getting into a speed team. So she's kind of like intro to speed team damage dealer. She's really, really nice. She's really insane in raid. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that up. She's a farmable unit now. Like I said, all the barbarian kings are farmable units now. Not a huge fan of the fire one. The water one recently got a buff that made him even better. He's really good in Guild Wars. He's got some usability in the World Arena as well. He's got Brand, which gives him attack bar. He's got this move that can strip, absorb attack bar. You steal their beneficial effects. And, of course, when this is on cooldown, you get HP every turn and attack speed. So he gets faster and heals himself every turn. It's really crazy. And it's this strip where he attacks 2 times and he can, steal their beneficial effect and their attack bar by 50% each. That's 100%, attack bar reduction if they have no beneficial effects. So like this guy in Dragons is really good. He can be a really nice niche unit for Guild Wars for certain defenses. I mean, he's really good. My favorite Nat 4 in the game, believe it or not, is Hraesvelg. I know I drool over Lucian in some of my other videos, but Hraesvelg, on every single account that I have him on, I use him in Giant Speed 10. He's a really fast unit. He's really good to replace your Megan or your Shannon when you're moving into a team that really wants to be fast and really wants to maximize on damage. The uptime on his attack buff and attack speed buff is crazy. It's a 2-turn attack buff and attack speed buff, which also increases his speed and his HP, just like the water barbarian king. So he increases his own speed and his own HP every turn. So he's got self-healing, he's wind, he's got a brand, he's got continuous damage effects. Also, his brand increases his attack bar by 50% after you use it. So he's going to get a stupid amount of turns. His damage output is really, really solid. But most importantly, because he gets all that attack speed and all that HP, he speeds up your team, and then he speeds up himself when it's on cooldown and heals himself. Just the uptime of it is ridiculous. It's like one of the highest uptimes of attack buff, and attack speed buff on any of the counts that I have. Like that, this is the unit that performs the best. Even on some earlier accounts, I've used it on my brother's account, and Starry Knight's brother's account. And he's, on a speed, crit damage, HP build, he's doing amazing. Even without that as insane of damage output, just the utility he brings to the team is kind of crazy. He is also now farmable. So this is one of those ridiculous units where if I were to go down that avenue of the, Guild Magic Shop Nat 4s that you can now receive when you slowly buy those 5 pieces at a time, and I believe you need 50 pieces total, you can eventually get. This would be one of those huge units. Also, Guild War attack lead, which is crazy. I mean, this guy's insane. He's like a purely damage-oriented Megan, I guess, without the attack bar increase for your team. But, speed and attack buff. He also synergizes really well with Hua because he's going to attack buff her and give her a speed buff, so her damage output's going to increase. He synergizes really well with speed-based damage dealers. Overall, like I said, he replaces Shannon or Megan when you're moving into speed teams. I even use this wind monster in my Dragons team on my main account. So that guy, he's crazy. He's now farmable. So that's another unit that, you can now see in the guild shop it's kind of crazy that now they're just giving us opportunities to get all these great Nat 4s. Like I said, also the Ifrits you could consider farmable, although they're not going to make as big of a splash in the Giant Speed 10 monster pool. They're not going to, they can do some great damage and some great single target damage, but they're even like a Theo's usability in Giants in my opinion, in my very biased opinion, can't match Hraesvelg, to the same effect. He doesn't bring as much to the table in terms of utility, in terms of variety to your team. So I just wanted to bring up these things. Like I said, if you see these guys in the guild magic shop and you're not sure, even if you see the fire one, buy the pieces. I mean, it's what, 100,000 mana. I know it sounds like a lot of mana, but like, buy the pieces. I would trade whatever, a few million mana for a Hraesvelg any day of the week. It's an amazing monster. It's going to carry you through the game. Mana is there to be spent. You can see I've accumulated a lot of mana on this account already. I'm at 7 million mana. I don't buy mana packs. I don't buy anything. This account is completely free to play. That's the whole point of the series. It's free to play. It's farmable. And I'm trying to be as minimalistic as I can with the monsters that I use. I have been having some fun. That's why I built the Wind Minotaurus. But that's pretty much it. There's not too much else to talk about. Like I said, I really just want your opinions on what you guys think, whether or not we should use those Guild Magic Shop Nat 4s. Other than that, there's some nice fusible Nat 4s I'm looking at for the future in the case that we aren't going to be using those. Verd for Dragons B10, of course. Harmonia is an amazing monster for Guild Wars, for our, for World Arena and all that. Fire Panda is amazing for Raid. I mean, Vero's here. We have all the pieces for Vero except for this Nat 2 dude. So we might fuse Vero just because we can. I don't know. There's an all attribute dungeon open. I've been farming some stuff there. You guys can see I'm low on crystals. But pretty much we're going to keep farming. I'm sorry that it's been so long since the previous update, but honestly, that's in general what's going to be this game. This game is, focus really hard on a monster for a while, then go back to grinding so you can try to improve your runes. The only time you should not be farming runes is if you're doing your daily challenges. I recommend you guys do these every day because, 10 crystals a day plus some mana and some energy, whatever, but mostly 10 crystals a day, and usually the events give you rewards for completing missions as well. So complete your dailies, and other than that, unless you're focusing on leveling a monster or farming a secret dungeon or some essence for a monster, I would be in Giants, Dragons, Necro, whatever dungeon you're in, farming it like crazy and getting better runes. And that's what I've been up to. So if you guys have any questions or comments, always be sure to leave them below. I try to respond as quickly as possible. Also, thank you to one of the most recent commenters who did make a comment asking about the legendary scroll for the event. That's kind of what prompted this video. I just wanted to explain, what I was thinking about moving forward with this series. But that's it. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you guys for the amazing support on this series, and I will see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, it's West again. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more.